I got another cross versus fight for you, and this one's a good one too. I got Luffy versus Hiei from Yu Yu Hakusho. Current Luffy versus end of series Hiei. We got two people who are, powerful enough to fight one another. Don't sleep on Hiei, and also don't sleep on Luffy. Luffy's the consumer of the Sun God Nikaido fruit. Hiei is born with the element opposite of his people's. He's the fire, the Amiko. And he also is somewhat of a swordsman as well. Luffy has, hockeys. So we're going to see how this plays out in both worlds. So in One Piece, we're going to be fighting at Punk Hazard. That's where I put the place at. He is from the ice, apparition world, but he's born with the fire. That's why I did it. I had to place it in Punk Hazard. That's where they're fighting in the first scenario. Now, second scenario, they'll be fighting in the cave they fought Sensui in, all right? Or Yusuke fought Sensui at the beginning of their fight before they went to Demon World. That's where they'll fight. Now, in scenario one, physical strength, that shit's going to Luffy. He is strong for his size. He fought against somebody who was, strong in the Dark Tournament. Boy's kind of a strong guy, but Luffy's stronger than him. He could lift him up. He could throw his ass. He could punch his ass, hard. He has armament hockey, advanced armament hockey too. So he's also doing internal damage without even hitting the man, right? Luffy got the strength. Now, speed, this is going to surprise some of you, but I got Hiei with that speed. And I do, man. I ain't doing that shit, bro. Hiei's fast enough to, he's faster than Luffy. I'd say a little bit faster than Luffy. Luffy can react to Hiei now. Don't get it fucked up. But, like, when it comes to speed and all cylinders, I have to give it to Hiei on that one. Durability wise, it's definitely going to Luffy, not Hiei. Hiei don't tank attacks. Endurance wise, Luffy. Luffy's been on longer fights than Hiei has. Hiei tries to go for the kill right away. Usually, unless he wants to play with Luffy. He goes based off his opponent. He can beat his ass real quick. He can, get it done quick, or he can play the long game. And we've seen Luffy do that long shit a lot, right? I know Luffy got the better endurance. Now, when it comes to intelligence, I am going to give it to Hiei there. Hiei's not like super smart, but he's I'd say he's smarter than Luffy, and I would say that. He'd be trying to like analyze what the fuck's going on with Luffy and be like, quick assessments, but like not less accurate, assessments either, of the situation. When it comes to experience, I'll give a slight edge to Hiei, but you could easily give that shit to Luffy if you want to. I'm giving it to Hiei though. Close skills, I'm giving it to Hiei. Hiei's gonna basically have to go up on Luffy with the sword, right? He's gonna go with the sword first, right? He's gonna strike with that. Luffy's gonna dodge. Luffy's gonna, oh man. Luffy might even break the sword if you ask me, brother. Weaker people from Yu Yu Hakusho that I know Luffy can beat broke Hiei's sword, so I know that's like not cap, bro. He can't use armament hockey to like make the sword more durable. He can't do that. So it's gonna break, and then he's gonna have to resort to using fists. And he's not like Yusuke with his hands. But he'll still try that. He's definitely like an animal when it comes to that shit. He's still down for the fight. Like his swords break, he's like, I don't give a fuck. I'll start throwing hands with you. Anything to get the win, right? So range skills go to Luffy. Luffy can hit Hiei from a distance. Gum Gum Gatlings, I don't see him dodging all that shit. Like I said, he is faster, but not much faster than Luffy. When we got recovery going to Luffy, EA, uh, Luffy usually recovers, better than most. And EA, when he gets beat down, he gets beat down, and he has to. I think he'll take a little longer to recover. And these guys don't really have moves where they like come back necessarily. He was never like he never died in the series, like Yusuke did, and Luffy has died and come back. So I had to give it to him. I'll give him those points. When it comes to hacks, I'm giving it to Luffy. Luffy can change the environment, um, and they can turn it into rubber. But you're gonna be surprised what I say. Some of you people will be surprised. I'm not. I know what I'm talking about. And we're fighting on punk houses. First area, you can rubberize that surface and all of that, right? However, he is going to have the advantage as far as the environment goes. And I mean because, and he is smart, right? So he could basically, in theory, be like, okay, um, this man's avoiding water. And he is that kind of smart, Like, why is he, like, every time I'm fighting him, why is he avoiding the water? And he'll put this shit together during the fight. Now, it won't be right away. I'm saying it's going to happen right away, but he'll figure that shit out. And when he does, he'll try to, he'll press Luffy to, get him into the water. And that's a win condition for him. However, I don't see it playing out that way. And he has the Dragon of the Darkness Flame, and that would do some damage to Luffy. But killing him, I don't even think it would. And guess what? With Gear 5, Luffy can lift the, ground up and have that shit go back to Hiei. Now, when it comes back to Hiei, he ain't going to be affected by his own attack. He'll become the dragon himself. But he's running up on him and he's hitting him, right? Luffy's still out there hitting, banging out with him. In the Gear 5, I think that's going to overwhelm Hiei in the long run. He's never seen shit like that before. Because then if Hiei gets grabbed by Luffy, he has no haki. Now he can burn Luffy and that will affect him. He'll be like but I don't see Luffy not doing damage to Hiei. He's more durable than he is. I have to give that shit to Luffy. High difficulty, in Luffy's favor. And then when we go to the Yu Hakusho world and they're in human world at Demon's Cave, strength goes to Luffy, speed goes to Hiei, durability goes to Luffy, endurance goes to Luffy, intelligence go to Hiei, experience go to Hiei, close skills go to Hiei, range skills go to Luffy, recovery goes to Luffy, hacks go to Luffy, and then the environment this time will go to Luffy because this is like there was no water in that area, bro. And like if it was like some pond. Luffy ain't worried about a fucking pond, bro. When it's like a sea or like a big body of water, that's when it's like a problem. But he ain't worried about that shit at all, man. We give this shit high difficulty to Hiei. And I ain't sleeping on that dragon, boy. Like Amaterasu is like the equivalent of the Dragon of the Darkness Flame. And when I'm putting him against people who use that shit, I'm giving like them like that as like an advantage they have over, Luffy to damage him, you know what I mean? And it's not your ordinary kind of fire, and it's not in Yu Hakusho either, However, these flames do dissipate. This ain't exactly like Amaterasu. Stronger fire, hotter and other things, but I don't see Luffy, succumbing to that shit. He's not a Zero. He ain't that weak, boy. If we were using East Blue Luffy, that would be a different story, and he would lose. But this is full power Gear 5. Full power end of series EA. And Luffy's winning this shit high difficulty. But let me know what you think about this fight in the comments below, and be cool calling the corner, man.